The sun had barely risen over the red dust plains when Cole heard the cry that would change his life forever. It came from beyond the creek, faint and desperate, the kind of sound that tears through silence like a dying prayer. Elijah was a poor farmer, living on a patch of land the earth itself seemed to have forgotten. His cabin leaned to one side, the roof patched with old tin, his hands scarred from years of working land that refused to grow anything but dust. Yet there was still kindness left in him, the kind that comes from pain, not comfort. Since his wife Mary died 2 winters ago, the days had bled together in silence. Her grave lay under the oak tree behind the barn, the one place where wildflowers still dared to bloom. Every evening Elijah sat by it, talking to her as if she could still hear, whispering about rain, hunger, and the ache of a man who had no one left to love. That morning, when he followed that faint cry, he found a young Apache warrior half buried in the mud beside the creek. The boy's chest was soaked in blood, his eyes barely open. A silver medallion glinted against his skin, marked with the sign of a chief's bloodline. Elijah froze. Every instinct told him to turn away. Helping an Apache meant death. The army patrolled these lands, and they would hang any settler who aided their enemy. But when Elijah looked into the boy's face, he didn't see an enemy. He saw a frightened child, one who could have been his own. Had life ever blessed him with a son? He dropped to his knees. "You'll be all right," he murmured, voice trembling. "You just hold on." Elijah carried the boy back to his cabin, every step heavy with risk. He laid him on the old bed where Mary once slept, washed his wounds, and tore strips from his own shirt to stop the bleeding. The boy's breath came shallow, fever rising, and through cracked lips he whispered one word: Toshin. That night, the wind howled through the cracks in the walls, but Elijah didn't sleep. He sat beside the fire, changing bandages, feeding the boy water, whispering prayers he hadn't spoken in years. On the 3rd night, the fever broke. The boy's eyes opened, black and deep as midnight. "Why you help me?" he asked weakly. Elijah just smiled. "Because somebody once helped me when I didn't deserve it." In the days that followed, Toshin regained his strength. He spoke little, but in his quiet way Elijah felt peace again. The boy helped mend fences, fetched water, and listened to Elijah's stories about Mary. In return, he told Elijah about his father, Chief Apache, a man of honor who ruled the Chiricahua people with wisdom and fire. Toshin had been ambushed by soldiers and left for dead. Elijah listened with a heavy heart, knowing that the world was cruel to both kinds of men. The farmer who had lost everything, and the warrior who had no home left to fight for. But peace is a short guest in the Wild West. One afternoon, 4 soldiers appeared at Elijah's farm. Their boots thundered on the porch. "We're tracking a wounded Apache," the officer barked. "You seen anyone?" Elijah's hand shook near his rifle, but his voice was steady. "I ain't seen nothing but my shadow." "Sir." The officer's eyes lingered on the cabin door, suspicion heavy in his stare. But finally he turned away. "If you're lying, old man, we'll hang you by sunrise." When their horses vanished over the hill, Elijah sank to his knees, heart pounding. Toshin came out from the cellar, his face pale but proud. "You risk your life," he said softly. Elijah nodded. "A life's worth nothing if you can't use it to save another." The next morning, Toshin saddled Elijah's old mule. "I must go home," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "My father will repay this debt." Elijah smiled faintly. "Just keep living, son. That'll be enough for me." The boy rode away, and Elijah watched until the horizon swallowed him whole. The farm fell silent again, the same way it had since Mary died. But that night, as Elijah sat by the fire, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. The dawn came quiet, but not empty. The sound of drums echoed across the valley. Elijah stepped outside and froze. At the edge of his land stood Chief Apache himself, tall and proud, his warriors surrounding him. Their horses gleamed in the morning light. Behind them were 20 young Apache women, dressed in ceremonial white, their faces painted with red earth and calm honor. The chief dismounted, his gaze firm but filled with gratitude. "My son lives because of you," he said, his voice deep as thunder. Among my people a life debt must be honored. You saved the blood of my tribe. Now I bring you what no white man has ever been offered." He lifted his hand, and the 20 brides stepped forward, silent and graceful. "Choose one," he said solemnly. "She will be your wife." Elijah's heart stopped. He looked at the faces before him, some young and shy, others bold and proud. But he saw none of them. His eyes turned toward the oak tree behind the cabin, where the morning light danced over Mary's grave. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he walked toward the chief and spoke quietly. "I thank you, Chief Aponi. I have no words for what you offer. But the only woman I ever loved still lies here, under this soil. My heart was buried with her." The chief's eyes softened. He looked at the grave, then at the man who stood with the quiet strength of sorrow. Slowly he placed a hand on Elijah's shoulder. "Then you are richer than any man alive," Aponi said. He turned to his warriors. "Leave a gift." When the Apache rode away, Elijah found a small pouch tied to his door. Inside was gold, enough to buy land, tools, and food for a lifetime. But more precious than gold was the peace that filled his chest. That night Elijah sat by Mary's grave, the wind whispering through the oak leaves. "I didn't take another bride, Mary," he said softly, "but I reckon your kindness saved a whole tribe today." The moon rose high, painting the farm in silver light, and for the first time in years, Elijah felt her presence beside him, quiet, warm, eternal. And though no one ever knew his name, the story of the poor farmer who saved a chief's son spread across the frontier, like a song carried by the wind. A song about love, sacrifice, and the kind of kindness that can change the world.